Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Disciple Makers podcast. I'm your host, Josh Howard. And man, I am so excited to have Alice with us today, who is a massive friend of the disciple making or the Discipleship.org world and in the disciple making world. Alice and I have actually had a chance to meet at multiple different Discipleship.org conferences. I've got to hear her speak, I think 2 or 3 different times. And Alice, every time you just bring such a inspirational, encouraging talk for people to really step in and be disciples who make disciples. You've also written a book on how to save the world. What's the subtitle of that, Alice?
Disciple Making Made Simple. So that's really on topic, on par with this group.
Okay, awesome. And so, please, guys, if you've not checked that book out, please go check it out. And then just off screen, she also let us know that, which I did not know, that she also wrote a children's book. What's the title of that one?
The title is You Are My Miracle, and it celebrates the miracle of life that children are to us. So my husband and I, we've been married for almost 18 years, and we spent 7 of those years wanting and trying and doing all the things to try to have a baby. And for some reason in those 7 years, God did not allow us to have children. And then once we did have children, it's like, oh my gosh, like life is such a miracle. Like it's just a miracle that any of us are walking around breathing, but especially as I'm walking around with my children every day, I'm like, your lives are a miracle. How did you come to exist? How does anybody come to exist? So that's really the premise of that book.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Alice. Yeah. And so it's, as always, it is a privilege to have you and to have you be a part of it. Also, guys, for those listening, Alice is also going to be joining us at the National Disciple Making Forum in Houston, Texas in April. She'll be speaking on the main stage there as well. And so please come and check it out whenever
you get party with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Come hang out. But Alice, I want to give you a minute just to kind of introduce yourself to the listeners who may not know you. And I'd just love for them to hear your hearts, what got you into the disciple making world in the first place. And just anything you'd like to share at the beginning. And then we can jump into some of the principles that you've gleaned over the years and things like that.
Yeah, well, I mentioned that my husband RJ and we've been married for about 18 years. I've been with the Navigators, which is a Christian organization that focuses really specifically on disciple making. I've been with the Navigators for a little over 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I am a lifer. I am sold on the vision of making disciples. And I think what got me hooked on disciple making in the first place was how simple it was, and how life transforming it was. I grew up in the church. Well, no, I didn't grow up in the church. I became a Christian in high school. So throughout high school, I went to the church. And I had my salvation, but I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I think that was enough for that season. But then when I went to college and things got hard, life got hard, I didn't have the deep roots in a relationship with Jesus. Like I said, salvation, but no relationship. A lot of knowledge and a lot of pride, but not a relationship. And what I found is that knowledge, it puffs up, but really the relationship is what transforms us. So when I arrived at UC Irvine, that's where I met the Navigators, and they helped me. I was discipled there by a gal named Jane, and learned how to have a relationship with God. And a lot of these strongholds in my life that I felt like I would try to free myself from, but had not been able to up to that point, God, I don't want to say he magically freed me from it, but it seems like it, where I'm like, just by having that like relationship with him, I experienced so much freedom and so much transformation just that first year that I'm like, oh my gosh, do people know, like, I went to church. I didn't know that you could have a relationship with God. I didn't know that it could change your life. Like other women, they need to know that you can really, really, truly have a relationship with God and it'll change your life. And so that's when I first captured the vision of disciple making. Along the way, I also became a licensed marriage and family therapist. And so it's kind of funny. The Lord called me back to full-time disciple-making ministry. I work in leader development now with the Navigators. And I feel like instead of diagnosing people like I did as a therapist, I love diagnosing problems. And one of the things that we're finding in the American church is this problem of people this stagnancy when it comes to making disciples among everyday people in the church. And so it was fascinating. I sat through some Barna research for my first book, How to Save the World, on the status of disciple making in the American church, why people are not making disciples, why people who are making disciples are making disciples. So it's just got to put my
Yeah.
therapist hat back on and get back in the seat.
That's awesome, Alice. Honestly, you said two things there that really perked my ears. One was the fact that you're part of the Navigators. So I believe I've shared the story one other time quite a while ago on the podcast, but it was actually when I was in India and I'd never made a disciple in my life, had never even had somebody really intentionally disciple me. And I had a mentor of mine that said, we were dreaming of like saturating India with the gospel. And I had a mentor that is now in his 80s, but he used to be a navigator. Okay.
Ah,
And
fun.
and he was like, "Hey, Josh, you've got to listen to this old sermon." And he sent me this old sermon by a guy named Dawson Trotman,
Oh, that's our founder. Yep.
yeah, who founded the Navigators. And it was a sermon called Born to Reproduce.
Hmm.
It was recorded literally back in like the 1950s, and I got the audio recording of it
Yeah.
and listened to it. And Dawson was just like literally unpacking how every single disciple is called to multiply disciples
Hmm.
and how we are literally born to reproduce disciples. And like, if we're not doing it, why are like the kind of the reasons why we're not doing it. And honestly, that sermon was almost like my gateway drug into disciple.
So
It kind
hooked
of,
you.
yeah, it hooked me and really set me on a trajectory to really it changed. That was the beginning of the path that changed everything and what we did in India
Whoa,
to really get.
amazing.
So anyway, that piqued my ears because I'm like, oh, Navigators, yeah, that's exactly what originally shifted me to more of a disciple making focus. The second
Awesome.
thing, Alice, was you said what hooks you on disciple making is how simple it is.
Yeah.
I would love for you to unpack it because honestly, I think the lie that a lot of people believe in the U.S. church,
Hmm.
especially, is that disciple making is actually one of the most complicated, difficult things that you can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And you just said, "Oh, how simple it is what got me hooked."
Yeah.
Tell our listeners like what is it about what you guys do that really is just a simple, repeatable process to really help people make disciples? What does that look like for you guys?
I think with the navigators, it's something as simple as, what somebody shared with me. I just turn around and share with somebody else, so it's not really inventing the wheel. And in some way, it's almost like, um, oh, what am like, it's not systematizing, but like operationalizing what you're doing in your own relationship with Jesus. Like
Yeah,
I'm praying anyways, and so why don't I invite somebody else to learn to pray as I'm doing the things that I'm already doing with Jesus so that they can do that with somebody else.
yeah,
Like since the Navigators does focus on disciple making, that's just so much of the culture that
yeah,
it was a part of. And I think where we're kind of getting hung up in the American church right now is that this idea, the term disciple making sounds so daunting. It sounds
yeah,
so complicated and it sounds so costly. Like,
yeah,
you want me to go to church and to serve and to go to Bible study and go to accountability group and then be a good like husband, wife, and then be a good parent and then do my work. And then now I have to make disciples on top of that. That just is
yeah,
too much time. I don't have the time to do that. And I don't have the time to learn how to do that. But when
yeah,
you simplify it to, it's just taking what you are already doing in your relationship with
yeah,
Jesus to share with somebody else in such a way that they can go on to share it with somebody else. That's it. Like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, okay. That is a lot less
yeah,
complicated than I than
yeah.
I thought.
That's beautiful, Alice. Yeah, and so tell us, and I love how you've shared that because I think you're right. I think we overcomplicate it. I think we make it too difficult. And even some of the programs that sometimes we design in the traditional church end up being very heavy to try to carry and a pretty big weight on some people's shoulders. And so
Hmm.
the fact that you guys really help try to simplify that, lighten the load, make sure that people are
Yeah.
able to do it along their everyday lives is so important. I know for your book, you mentioned that you did quite a bit of research on why people who are making disciples actually do. and
Mm-hmm.
why people who don't, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so would you share with our listeners, Alice, just what was that research? What did you find? And then
Mm-hmm.
how has that impacted the way that you personally do ministry and or the way that you're helping churches now, kind of step
Mm-hmm.
more into this?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is that people are just unfamiliar with the term. We're not really talking about discipleship, disciple making that much. It's not a regular part of our vernacular in the church. We talk about giving, we talk about community, we talk about witnessing and evangelism, we talk about reading your Bible, we talk about praying. Like those are all a part of a healthy Christian's walk with Jesus. But a lot of churches leave out this idea of disciple making. We're not talking about it. And so people have no idea what all it
Yeah,
encompasses. And so it becomes more complicated than it really needs to be. But when we use the word plainly and people have an idea, I mean, I feel like discipleship, the term is like a catch-all for
yeah,
anything from like small groups, or Bible
yeah,
studies or mentoring, and you lose out on the life to life
yeah,
intentional developing of people to become more like Jesus, and to
yeah,
love with him and walk with him that Jesus did. It's just as simple as what I mean. Of course, none of us, we're not Jesus, right? But but what he did was so simple. He just lived his life doing the things that he was doing anyways, and he invited some guys along and some women along to
yeah,
watch him do it. And then later on, he said, "You do it." And he would
yeah,
like coach and debrief them. And then when he left the earth, he was like, "Okay, now it's your job to do the same thing
yeah.
and to multiply it to the ends of the earth, to the end of time." That's it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
beautiful, Alice. That's so
yeah.
good. Yeah, I think that was most recently actually. I it was probably when we moved from India to back here to America. So I was in India for about 16 and a half years, and then we
Mm-hmm.
moved back stateside about, I don't know, about a year and a half ago now, a little over that. And
Mm-hmm.
in India, I felt like, there were quite a few seasons that if I invited somebody to come and be with me and follow me, they
Mm-hmm.
would have gotten the Jesus stuff,
Yeah,
like they
yeah.
would have gotten the prayer and the fasting and the evangelism and the preaching and the praying for people and whatever it might be, and they would have been able to come and see all of that.
Yeah.
Then when I moved back to America, it was like I felt like if I invited somebody to come and follow me, they'd get a bunch of Zoom meetings and business meetings, and I'm not sure how much Jesus stuff they were going to get, right? And
Yeah, right.
it was like, okay, hold on a second. And so I was actually challenged really directly by the Holy Spirit. And it was kind of
Mm.
like, it was almost like he asked me a question, Alice. It was like, Josh, are you living a life where if you invited somebody to come and follow you, it would actually make sense? Like it
Oh, wow.
and
Mm-hmm.
and let's just say that's not an easy thing sometimes, to
Yeah.
think about. But the reality is that is true disciple making, Alice. What you're bringing up is
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
are we regularly living the life of a disciple anyway?
Yeah.
And if we are, then inviting somebody to join us on those things is a simple ask.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if we're not doing any of those things, well, then in order to disciple somebody, we now have to rearrange our calendar
Mm-hmm.
in order to like make some stuff up for somebody to learn
Yeah,
because we're
exactly.
not living that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think it really starts with us deciding that we're going to become disciples that are worth following, that are worth
Yeah.
researching, and then we can then invite people and say, "Hey, I pray like I spend every morning praying and reading the Word. Why don't we do it together?" Or
Yep.
every
Mm-hmm.
Thursday night we go prayer walk this neighborhood. Come with me, and we're going to prayer walk the neighborhood, and we're going to talk to people about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing any of those things, then it feels like a big weight. Like, oh, I've got to
Then you
now.
gotta create something to like
Right,
have them come
right.
along to, instead of just like, well, just come. I'm doing it anyway. So yeah,
Right, absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I love the challenge, Alice. And for those of you listening, I would love for you to just take a moment to think and pray about like what are areas in your life that you are currently doing that would make sense for somebody to come and follow?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it that maybe we're not being the disciples we think we are,
Yeah.
and we're not actually following Jesus the way we think we are?
Mm.
And it probably needs to start there with us, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, are we living a life that is repeatable, reproducible,
Mhm.
where other people can look at it and learn and follow?
Yeah.
Or does our life pretty much look every day like every other life in America.
Ooh,
And
so convicting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's like, do we look like followers of Jesus or not? And if the
Hmm.
answer is no, well, then that's the first change we need to make
Yeah.
right then and there. And so, thanks for bringing that up, Alice. I think it's a really good, strong word to us in the
Hmm.
American church for us to really start thinking about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I would say, like, I think that the pressure can be like, I need to be living, I need to get it together first, and then I can invite other people in. But like, you can fumble along and mess up
Absolutely.
as you're like, hey, I want to grow in this. Do you want to like join me in growing in this? And we might get some things right, and we might not get some things right. Like in this season, so I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so my capacity isn't as big as
Yeah.
it used to be when I was like a childless, married, dual income. Like I
Right.
could just spend
Absolutely.
hours at just hanging out on campus or whatever with people who I'm discipling. And nowadays it's like, come hang out with me and my crazy kids, and maybe see the
Yeah.
less refined, sanitized parts of who I am. And yet there's still something. My husband and I, we just did premarital counseling with a couple, a gal who was, she was one of our first intern staff when we started leading the ministry at UC Irvine, which we no longer lead. And it was such an honor that, I mean, she, as a single gal, was in our marriage, in our home all the time, saw us squabble a lot. We're a squabbly couple, and like I'm not ashamed that we're a loud couple. So if you want a quiet, docile couple to be around with, that's not us. So we invited them into real life, real marriage. Um,
Is there, Alice? I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there one of you that squabbles more than the other in the?
Oh,
In
it's both of us, but probably me. I'm
okay.
I'm for sure not the
Okay. All
nice. My
right.
husband is for sure the nicer one, but we're both
Okay.
firstborns. I don't know how this works, but we both have opinions.
That's awesome.
But like 10 years later, when she's getting married, even though she saw all that mess, they asked us to do premarital counseling and for my husband to
Yeah.
officiate their wedding, and I think that just speaks so much to like, you have seen like probably the worst of us and our marriage, and
Yeah.
the worst of us and our marriage, and yet there's still something that you want to learn from. Like, you want to be discipled in marriage by
Yeah.
us. So I think my encouragement as we're talking about this is, don't wait until you got it all figured out
Yeah.
perfectly
Absolutely.
together and it looks good before you invite somebody to join you. Like, fumble forward together, figure it out together. If you mess up, then like,
Yeah.
I think honestly what spoke to her as an Asian American woman was us apologizing to one another, like
Yeah.
acknowledging our wrongs. That like, people don't really, in the Asian American church, the older generation, you don't really see much apologizing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think the illustration we'll use sometimes, I think sometimes we almost assume, like if we use a, exercise or working out illustration, sometimes we almost assume you've got to get to the point of being like a personal trainer level before you start like helping
Yeah.
somebody learn how to work out.
Uh-huh.
The reality is, even if you're just now starting, you can invite somebody to come to the gym with you. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
like, and so you don't have to be like, your body doesn't have to be fit in order to like
Mm-hmm.
invite a friend along to the gym
Yep.
and like start working out together. And so it's a very similar thing. We don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to have all of our ducks in a row.
Mm.
Um, we can fail forward,
Yeah.
and learn as we go. But I think the key is just really making sure that we have at least one or two things in our lives that we can invite people into. So,
Yeah.
like if I'm never going to the gym and I don't ever intend to go to the gym, I'm not going to invite a friend and say, "Hey, why don't you meet me at the gym tomorrow?" When I like,
Definitely not gonna show
I'm
you.
definitely not
Yeah.
going, but I'm going to
Uh-huh.
invite you anyway. But if we have one or two things in our lives where it's like, "Hey, let's get together every Tuesday and just read the Bible together and pray,"
Mm.
hey, that's a start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or hey, we're going to get together once a week and we're going to have a list of people that we're praying for who don't know Jesus, and we're just going to
Mm-hmm.
pray for them and
Mm-hmm.
ask God to give us opportunities or whatever. Like it could start very simple, and we don't need to
Mm-hmm.
have it all figured out. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, thank you for that reminder. Sometimes it can feel like we've got to have it all everything buttoned up and the perfect little
Yeah.
Christian before we can make disciples. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a mentor, Alice, who always uses the illustration of like duckling discipleship.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
ever heard of that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
they have you like picture the mama duck, right? And then all of her little baby ducklings behind her. And his
Mm-hmm.
whole point is you don't have to be the mama duck to make disciples.
Yeah,
You just have
absolutely.
to be one or two steps of the duck
Yeah.
behind you, or one or two steps ahead of the duck behind you. And as
Mhm.
long as you are, then you can, have them follow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, hey, we're all baby ducks trying to
We're all
figure
baby ducks, right?
it
Following
out.
Jesus, the
There
Jesus
you go.
mama duck.
There you
I
go.
mean,
That's
he
that's
called
good.
himself the mother hen, right? That wants
Yeah,
to
there you
like
go.
bring the church under. Yeah, I discipled
That's
a
awesome.
gal. She was probably one of the first gals I discipled. After well, no, after getting married at a college campus, a new campus assignment that we had, and she wasn't a Christian before we started meeting up together. I don't know when she became a Christian. Honestly, I thought that she was a Christian the whole time, but she wasn't. And we were sharing with her, the Navigators, we use the bridge to life illustration, right? We've crossed
Okay.
over from
Yeah.
death to life. Jesus, he is the bridge that we cross over. And, I shared this illustration with her. It's supposed to be a napkin, real simple illustration. And this young freshman girl who was new to the church, new to Christianity, she was just like, this is so simple. I could share it with my like 7-year-old brother. And so she did. She took it and she shared it with her. That's duckling discipleship. She didn't have to wait until she was like more spiritually settled or
Right.
mature or got her theology degree before she felt like, okay, now or take a class. But it was just like, oh, I learned this illustration. It's so simple. I could share it with my baby brother. So I'm going to share it with my baby brother. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the
And that's all it
simplicity.
takes. Yeah, that's all it takes. I love the biblical imagery of even when Jesus meets the guy with the legion of demons, right?
Yeah.
And Jesus casts out all the demons, and then literally he wants to come with Jesus, but Jesus says, "No, I want you to go tell your friends and your family what God's done for you today." And the
Mm-hmm.
guy turns around, and it says that he went to share about Jesus to the Decapolis, which was a region of 10 cities in that
Mm-hmm.
day. And so it's like literally this guy knew nothing. He had no Bible college degree. He didn't,
Mm-hmm.
go to the synagogue and learn.
Yep.
It was all he had was his testimony of what Jesus did for him,
Yeah.
and went and
Mm-hmm.
shared it with as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all we need, like one touch
Yeah.
from Jesus, one encounter with him, one
Yeah.
little tool that we learn, one
Mm-hmm.
part of our life that's transformed. Then we can go out
Mm-hmm.
there and begin to share that with others.
Yeah.
And it can
Amen.
be super simple to take that next step.
Yeah,
So
story after story in the Bible. As you're saying this, I'm thinking of the Samaritan woman who is
yeah,
like a step, like she's just still steeped in her sin and living her sinful life. And she met the real living God who humanized her, valued her, called her into something greater. And so she went and shared. And it's like the first major evangelistic
yeah,
event in the Gospels is like a whole village came out to Jesus. And I love at the end, it says, at first we came because of your word, but now we believe because we have seen Jesus for
yeah,
ourselves. And like, man, the power of you could be still in sin. You could be a
yeah,
step out of sin. You don't have to. I mean, she was a woman in that day and age. She wasn't educated, probably. She couldn't get the training that
yeah,
priests did. And yet
yeah.
she had such a powerful kingdom impact in multiplying just what she had. God does that. He takes the little that we have and he can multiply it into an
Yeah.
abundance of fruit.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Alice.
Mhm.
Hey, you're going to be with us, like I mentioned at the beginning, you're going to be with us at the National Disciple Making Forum in April,
Mhm.
in Houston, Texas. Tell us a little bit, Alice, about, I mean, don't like, don't go ahead and preach your whole sermon,
Yeah,
but
for
what
sure.
I know you're going to be talking a little bit about your book, How to Save the World and things like
Mhm.
that. Like, what is, give our listeners, like, because we're getting close to being about out of time here. So I'd love to
Mhm.
just give our listeners maybe one or two principles that you love to share with people around disciple making and how to live this
Mhm.
out, how to own that. Because the theme this year is own the mission. So, like, how do we take that, own the mission that God's given us, and go out? I'd love for you at the end, just and then honestly, Alice, anything else on your heart that you may think that our listeners would need to hear.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to be with you all again in Houston this year. I think The big question I want to ask is, what is your why? How do you keep this disciple making mission and help empower everyday people who you are leading to keep this disciple making mission in front of you? There's always going to be things that take up your time. There's always going to be competing needs, competing ministry demands. What is your why to keep disciple making in front of you? Like I think about Jesus. He had so many demands around him all over the place, like healing, more healing, feed us, teach us. And so he often drew away with the Father. And it takes a real commitment to keep going,
Yeah.
keep going towards the mission. And so like to own the mission, you have to be so convinced of what is your why. And what is the why that supersedes any of the barriers, any of the hesitations that there might be to stepping into. So I recently started, I'm in my mid 40s now. So now I need to start exercising and eating well and, all that stuff, but like, we all know, we've known since the beginning of time, you exercise, you eat well, it's good for your body, even though we know it doesn't mean that we do it, right? And so really my why is my young kids. I'm an older mom. I had my kids both when I was close to 40. I'm an older mom. I want to have enough energy to chase them for the next 20 years, 15 years that they're with me. That is my why, to why I work out when I don't want to, why I eat the salad instead of eating the double from In-N-Out, which I did have a couple days ago anyways. And so like same with disciple making. What's your why when life gets busy that you say, I'm still committed to inviting somebody to come along with me? What's your why when you're like, I don't know if I have what it takes, but I see this person who is a couple of ducks behind me. What's your why? So I think that's a little sneak peek that I hope to unpackage at the Disciple Making Forum. And what was your second one? Like,
no, anything, if there's anything else on your heart that you would love to share with our listeners at the end here, or if there's any kind of last word that you want to share, feel free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I just think if it's easy enough for college Alice, who is steeped in sin and brokenness and so much legalism, Pharisaical, like a lot of knowledge of God, but no experience. If it's simple enough for young college Alice to be able to pick up and do, I mean, it's different. You have a snapshot of me now, 20 years later, and like my life is more together because of Jesus in my life and people discipling me and walking with me and helping me know Jesus. But we all start somewhere. And so start somewhere and help your people to start somewhere. It might not be the cleanest, but the grace of God is with us. And lo, I will be with you to the end of the days. So just start somewhere, and the Spirit of God is with you and will multiply and cover over any shortfalls that we will have to multiply into something really beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Alice. Thank you. Hey, if our listeners want to reach out to you or follow you or anything, what's the best way to do that?
All of my things are at Alice Matagora. So alicematagora.com is my website. You can find me there. My Instagram handle is at Alice Matagora. Same with Facebook. I think I have a TikTok, but I don't really post regularly.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so
that's awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, definitely go to alicematagora.com and check her out, and especially the couple of books that she mentioned, guys. And if you want to get to meet Alice and hear her in person, definitely come check us out in Houston in April. We would love to see y'all there. If you want information about that, just go to Discipleship.org, and right there on the header of the website, you'll be able to register for the conference. We'd love to get to meet you, hang out with you, and I know Alice would love to meet you as well. And so please come hang out with us. But until then, guys, if you need any other resources or help in this disciple making journey, reach out to us. We would love to help in any way that we can. And until next time, guys, let's be disciples who make disciples, and let's take this simplicity that Alice just shared with us, and let's start somewhere and really get in the game to help people become more like Jesus. We love you guys, and we will see you next time. Alice, thank you for joining us. It was an honor to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right. See you guys. Take care.
Bye.